Welcome back. Welcome back. Ed Martin here in the Pro-America Report. You often hear me say, if you want to be pro-America, you got to be pro-life, pro-family, pro-America first. But that pro-life one is a big one. I hope you all are seeing how important it is when you look at the Supreme Court decisions, you look at the future all around us. Well, one of our friends has been on the show many times, Janet Porter, who has been a real master strategist and a fighter for pro-life. She's got a new book, and the new book is called A Heartbeat Away, How the Heartbeat Bill Will Pierce the Heart of Roe v. Wade and the Shocking Betrayal No One Saw Coming. And so for years now, for about I'd say 3-4 years, Janet has had this vision to advocate for the heartbeat bill. If there's a heartbeat detected, protection, there'll be, if there's a heartbeat detected, the baby's protected. And then you go from there and work backwards. It's pretty intuitive, very powerful way to think of the pro-life effort. And she's had amazing success all across the country, in states and others, and made progress in the Congress. And then things stalled, which we'll talk about. So first of all, welcome, Janet. How are you today?
Thanks so much. So good to be here with you, Ed.
So Janet is also the founder and the president of Faith2Action, her organization, which has been so great. So Janet, first, give me your best rah, don't get down. I mean, it feels like for pro-lifers, we made a lot of progress and then stalled. And then we got the Supreme Court and then stalled. And it's like Lucy holding the football and Charlie Brown kicking. But I know that your MO is, you're one of the great captains of the effort. So encourage us, even as it feels like we kicked the football or the air again.
Well, first let me issue a friendly correction on the how long we've been doing this. God put the idea for a heartbeat bill in my heart literally 10 years ago. And so we've been pounded against the brick wall for a decade now. But the good news is we are seeing phenomenal success. Again, the bill, as you said very eloquently, it's simply, if a heartbeat's detected, the baby's protected. It's now been introduced in 29 states. It passed in Arkansas, North Dakota, Iowa, Mississippi, Kentucky, Georgia, Missouri, Louisiana, Ohio, and just this last week in Tennessee. That makes 10 heartbeat laws, which really, Ed, are arrows that are being launched through the court system to deliver what I believe will be the fatal blow to the heart of Roe versus Wade and abortion on demand. So we're looking at what the pro-life movement really has been missing for 47 years, and that is a clear pathway to victory. And I dedicated the book, interestingly, I dedicated the book to President Donald J. Trump. He is, I believe, America's most pro-life president, but he said something in his speech as the only president to appear at the March for Life. He said, "We will win because we know how to win." And what I want to communicate to the president is, what I believe is that the heartbeat bill is the way to win. It simply says, we want to protect babies from conception. The pro-aborts, as we saw in New York, and we see in the governor from Virginia and elsewhere, they want to kill them till birth. But you know what? We've got a compromise. It's a scientific solution. It gets us within inches of our goal of conception, but it recognizes what we recognize in every other human being across the country, and that is a detectable heartbeat. We're no longer going to ignore the SOS that is being sent from our youngest members of the human family. We're going to acknowledge it, and we're going to provide protection to those fellow human beings whose heartbeats can be heard. And so we believe this is going to be the wedge in the wall of Roe and bring abortion on demand crumbling to the ground. It's great. It's a great encouragement to know that, they only been passing incremental bills. Well, this is an incremental bill, but it's a great big increment. And the reason why President Trump is so important, the reason why I dedicated to him and spoke about him in the book often, is because we need some more justices on that Supreme Court. If we want to protect children in our lifetime and end abortion while we're alive to see it, we need to elect President Trump in November, and we need to do everything we can to pray a shield of protection around him, to pray for others to come to the knowledge to know that a vote for Trump is a pro-life vote, and a vote for Biden is a vote to kill babies. That's really, it's plain and simple as I can make it. Live baby good, dead baby bad.
Janet, we're talking with Janet Porter, and by the way, her book, A Heartbeat Away, it's available anywhere you buy books and all, but I'd say the best place to go is f2a.org, which is her website there, and there's signed copies available, and you can buy it there, f2a.org. A Heartbeat Away is the title. Janet, tell me about the book now, because the book is about the heartbeat bill and how important it is, but it's also about how the fight goes, and walk us through the book and why it's important, why people will be interested in sort of understanding, as you point out, the President Trump said, we'll win because because we know how to win. Well, part of knowing how to win, and your friend and mine, the late Phyllis Schlafly, used to say, you got to understand how politics works, not just what the truth is. So walk us through this book, why it's important.
Sure. It's a handbook on how not just to pass a heartbeat bill in your state, but it's how to really do what they say can't be done. This is what I discovered in this battle, Ed. It doesn't take a majority. As David Barton says, as I point out in the book, it never took a majority. The American Revolution didn't take a majority. There were a fraction of a handful of maybe 5 to 7% that supported the American Revolution, actually fought in the American Revolution. But what we're seeing is that a handful of people that were willing to do whatever it takes, and that's a chapter in the book about whatever it takes. That means we're not going to have to call out some of these guys that are Republicans in name only, the rhinos. It means we're going to have to take out ads and expose those who are blocking the bill while turning around and pretending to be pro-life. We got to do the hard thing. We ran candidates against these guys in the primaries in 3 election cycles. I actually ran against the president of the Ohio State Senate. We didn't win, but we cost them a lot of money. And what it ultimately came down to is that we were not going to quit until the babies were protected and the killing stopped. There's a lot more in this book. It's about taking on the impossible, whatever it may be. But for example, if we're looking in the news, as we just heard on your show about what's going on with Black Lives Matter, well, if people really were concerned about fighting racism, then they'd be in the pro-life battle, because the real racism takes place in abortion clinics throughout this country, where a black baby is 3 times more likely to be killed in the womb than a white baby. Every week more African Americans are killed by abortion than all the people killed in the Vietnam War. I talk about that in the book. I talk about a question. Let me see if you know the answer to this one, Ed. In the book, it says, Guess who said this? We don't want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. Who said that? Was it President Donald Trump? Was it Congressman Steve King, who they railroaded with a misquote, or was it Planned Parenthood founder Margaret Sanger? Any guess?
I think I can guess this one. I think it's C, Margaret Sanger. I would have got that without that, but that's right. But here, let me ask you though. I want to push back, Janet. Why is it that so many Republicans run and act as pro-life, and then they just don't get it done? Trump has lived up to his pledge to be pro-life, but he's almost singular. You can name a couple of other members that are fearless about it, but most get caught up in the lemming effect, and they're in the lemming, and they're just and we don't get it done. I mean, It even me, and I'm pretty optimistic generally. I just get sick of it that they don't actually deliver.
Well, I'll tell you what it's been, is we've been letting these guys get away with murder for decades, literally. They run as pro-lifers, and we regulate around the edges of abortion. We move the line down a millimeter down the field, and we all wonder why, we're still killing 1 million children legally every year in this country, and it's the establishment. And that's one of the things that our mutual friend, the late Phyllis Schlafly, saw. She saw that President Trump was an anti-establishment guy, that there's a lot of phonies who say, oh, look how pro-life I am, and all I'm willing to do is regulate around the edges of abortion. Now what? We want someone that's going to end abortion. And that's the kind of guy Trump is. That's the kind of guy that we need to see representing us, whether it's female or male. It's representing us at the State House, at the congressional level, and at the presidential level. Because here's the enablers to the establishment. You want to know the subtitle of my book? It says A Heartbeat Away, but the subtitle is How the Heartbeat Bill Will Pierce the Heart of Roe v. Wade and the Shocking Betrayal No One Saw Coming. The shocking betrayal, I'll give you a little hint about what that was. It was the establishment group called, brace yourself, Right to Life. National Right to Life and several of its affiliates have actually enabled the pro-abortion movement, and they fought harder than anyone against the most protective pro-life bill to ever pass in these states, beginning with Ohio. Interestingly, I was the legislative director of Ohio Right to Life. I was part of the establishment. I did the incremental bills, the parental consent and the right to know. I even lobbied to pass the nation's first ban on partial birth abortion. But what Dr. Wilkie, the founder of Right to Life, said, he says that approach, that incremental approach, did not get us far enough, fast enough. And so when you're trying something different, if you want different results, you got to try a different approach. And that's what we did. And there were a lot of people who saw it as a turf war, that said this is encroaching on our territory. And they fought us harder than Planned Parenthood. In fact, Ohio Right to Life not only testified against the protective heartbeat bill that would save almost every child facing abortion, but when we passed it, not once but twice, they called for a veto of the most protective pro-life bill, and they celebrated alongside the abortionists when it came. We saw it in so many states, in South Carolina, and Tennessee, and Indiana, and all over the place. But let me tell you one thing. If you didn't believe what I'm saying, if you don't believe what I document in the book, A Heartbeat Away, then believe this. National Right to Life turned their back on the champion in Congress, Congressman Steve King. They endorsed his opponent and cost him his race. This is a guy with a 100% voting record who's the champion of the pro-life heartbeat bill and the bill of protection from conception. And they did that in Ohio. They did it in Tennessee as well. This is the kind of thing we're up against. We found the enemy, and it is us. What we need to do is expose those who are obstructing the cause of protecting children, and that's what this book does. There's going to be a lot of people shocked and surprised, and some who I believe are going to be demanding their money back from the donations they made to what they thought was a pro-life organization of National Right to Life, and realize National Right to Life, even at the federal level, has impeded and blocked the effort to protect more children than all the bills we've ever passed in the last 47 years, Ed, combined. That's what this bill would do. Protect, Dr. Wilkins, 98% of them.
Yeah, it is. This time is so interesting in a way for many of us, and if Trump's done it too. The exposing the sort of true motives of a lot of folks, whether it's the fake news, some of the neocons in the international affairs, and then these conservatives, the so-called social conservatives on the issue, or the pro-lifers, where you say, yeah, it doesn't look like you really want to make progress. It looks like you are part of the problem. Well, listen, the book is, again, go to f2a.org. The book is A Heartbeat Away. I think it's really important that you did this, Janet. I know it's how hard it is to write a book, but this is going to be important as a marker as we go forward, and again, such an important time. So thank you, Janet Porter. F2A.org. We'll put it up on social media also, and we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. It's Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Be back in a moment.